Hey everyone, welcome back. We are jumping right into today's video. Over the Christmas holidays, we reorganized our basement storage and our toy storage. And I've broken that project into two different videos because it was quite long. So this first part, this part one of our little project is today, and that is our basement organization. So like our basement storage, our totes, all that kind of thing. You might recognize this clip. This is our basement, basically toy room. We call it our tree house, but it is our toy room. It has been our toy room for the last few years. But before the holidays, I decided this is not really being utilized enough. And I wanted this space for our basement storage, like for all of our totes and stuff. It's a little bit easier to access. It's like cleaner. It's just nicer to be in than the crawl space we are currently using, which I'll show you in a second. So I am just kind of revisiting this clip quickly. This is me getting rid of all the toys, all the books, all the last like little bits of kid stuff. And I did this just before the holidays during my Christmas sort of pre-Christmas reset of the house. And at this time, I didn't have a set plan for what I was doing with the toys. So you can see me here. Basically, just I was doing a bit of a declutter and a bit of just figuring out where am I going to put everything for the next couple of weeks, and then B, what is my plan moving forward. So you'll see in next week's video, which is part two, I do figure out our toy situation, which has worked out really well, and now I really love it. So I'm excited for that. But today is just, I'm going to show you our basement storage. So like our totes and where I'm going to move those and what we're going to do with all of that. But this is just showing you our toys. I got rid of a few and then I temporarily placed them like between our basement and our living area. And it worked fine for those couple weeks, but I was definitely excited to get it actually sorted. And this is the back to the actual treehouse, just like the upper level. We had some decorations, we had some lights up, I was trying to make it cute for the kids when it was a playroom, but we were done with that. So I was so ready to let all of this go. If anyone has ever had a toy room, I feel like you can probably agree where it's so handy in some situations, but in other ways, it's so overwhelming to have this room that is just constantly a mess. And because the kids are older now, they're better at tidying up and they have fewer items. Like, it's not like they have a million toddler toys. I felt like they were ready to have stuff into the living spaces. So that's where we moved everything, which I'll show you next week. This is the crawl space where we currently have all of our storage. As you can see, it's just even lower. It's hard to access. It is such a pain, honestly. Like how many times I hit my head on that metal, like venting above there, it just, like just looking at this makes me cringe. So this is everyone upstairs. This is, again, I said during Christmas holidays, a quick clip of what everyone else is up to. This was haircut morning. Scott cuts Leo's hair. So they were excited because they got extra TV time. So they were pumped about that. So that is part of the reason why I was able to get this done during the holidays when everyone was home. Because usually, as you know, if you have little ones at home, it is not that easy. Okay, so this is me simply bringing out every item, every tote. I just started by emptying that space. I just wanted all out, kind of wanted to see what I had to work with. And frankly, I was just so excited to get everything out of that space because honestly, I never want to go back in there ever again. The little temporary shelving you can see with that's like on bricks sort of thing. It's actually worked pretty well. I mean, the owners before us did it. We didn't do that. But to be honest, if you're like desperate for trying to make something work in your own home, it worked really well. There is something about having shelving so that totes like aren't on top of each other. It's quite handy. So that was like, it looks hilarious probably to the outside eye, but it actually functioned pretty well for the last few years. The other thing is I did not focus on decluttering today. I mean, every single time I do any sort of reorganization, I always end up getting rid of something, but that wasn't the focus today. Here is an overview of everything that I have to do. This is where we're in right now is my unfinished laundry room, which is also kind of rough, but it worked okay. And then as you can see, I've emptied it except for one tote, which was super heavy. And then I was waiting for Scott to help me, and then I ended up just doing it myself. Again, I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. So this is empty, and that felt so good. In the meantime of those 2 weeks of this being empty, of course, the kids made it their own. They, some reason, put a chair in there, some random crafting things, Leo's splash pants. I don't know why those are in there. So I just did like a quick empty and getting rid of everything there. I feel like as soon as the space is empty, if the kids access it, they just know like, oh, this is our space now, or they just fill it with stuff. So If that happens to anyone else, I totally get that. And as I mentioned, I'm not going to be focusing on decluttering today. However, I do have a video coming up in a few weeks where I'm going to be, it's part of my 10 things to declutter series, and it's going to be 10 things to declutter from like a storage area and a storage room. And I do also want to like acknowledge of how grateful and I feel like how lucky we are to even have these two spaces, because we worked in a ton of homes that do not even have like a basement storage or a basement at all where it's dry and you can put things. So I do understand and I recognize how grateful and how lucky we are to even have that. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm complaining or anything like that. Grateful to have these spaces. I will say that having less space, honestly, in 99% of the time, I'm grateful for that, because it forces us to let go of more and more items and forces us to only keep and recognize what we really use and what's actually really, really important to us. So I feel like we have a ton of storage space in our basement, and I will also say that when we first moved in, or the first couple of years we lived here, that crawl space, like the rough looking one, was packed. We had two babies, a toddler and a baby, and it was a crazy time. We had just moved. We were definitely still hadn't started to declutter. It was, couldn't even walk in it. So it's almost hilarious to look at it now. I wish I had an old clip, a whole old picture of what it used to look like, because it was packed. So being able to move all of that from that huge space into this little space, and I bet this is why we thought when we first moved in we didn't use this space for storage to start with, is because it was small, and for what we had there's no way we could fit everything in. But now that we've let go of so much, it's going to be a cinch. Like, we'll be able to fit everything in here. You'll see, and it worked really, really well. So just like another benefit of only keeping what you have. I almost didn't make this video or share this video because I was thinking this is such a dingy room. No one wants to see our like disgusting basement, like creepy, dark crawl space. And I'm like, you know what? This is real life. Like, so many of the projects we do for clients are basements. I think this is an area people struggle in because things just get tossed in this area. They just get put and forgotten, and it usually becomes overwhelming so fast because a basement or the storage area has the room. It's like where you don't have to make decisions because you don't use it daily, and things can just sort of go to die. So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that I recognize this isn't like the cutest video, and that if you want something cute, that's next week. Our toy storage is somewhat cute, but this is not cute. This is a dark basement, and it's nothing fancy, but it works so well, and it feels so good to have it all organized. So as you can see now, I am just bringing everything in. So you might have noticed those first couple little clips of me bringing stuff in. I was really just looking around because I was like, what am I doing? And if you're starting projects and you're wondering, if you just sit there and think, oh man, what have I got myself into? And like, what do I do now? I totally get that. I've been there all the time. Okay, this topper is what I really want to mention. That was toy rotation that we had kept up there, and we sort of, that's why, like, as I said, we rotated toys in and out, and I wanted to keep it away from the kids. But the one big thing is I wanted a spot for donations that the kids couldn't access. So that tiny little cubby area above the door, that is becoming our donations. So you can see it's a big bag of donations I have. I'm keeping it because I wanted to show, I have like a little declutter haul coming up that I want to show you, but that is an area that I was so excited about. That was the one thing I probably access every day. If you do not have like a donation station, as one of my friends Dana calls it, I love that phrase, donation station. If you don't have one, you have to have a donation station, because if you're constantly getting rid of things, it's so handy because you just become a habit and you just whip stuff in there constantly. As you can see, haircut morning is now over, and Annie Rose has decided to join me. She brought her little spray bottle down with water, and she thought the lids of these totes were just filthy, and so she decided they all needed to be cleaned. That's her exasperation about how terrible they are. She just couldn't believe it. So she decided to go get a cloth, and that's what she spent her time doing, which kind of kept her busy, which was somewhat good. Another thing about these totes, we didn't buy anything new for this project. I would say we bought the majority of our totes probably before we moved in our old house. And again, during like that phase where you have babies and toddlers, where you have, I feel like, just more stuff. I don't know if it was just our phase or that's for everybody, but we had a ton of stuff. And then we have got rid of totes since then. So my plan is to never buy another tote, probably for the rest of my life. Obviously, my organizing heart would love to have totes that all coordinate, they all match, or they all have like they're all by season or by category that are all coordinated. I would love, love, love that, but I just can't justify it. I have other things that I'd rather spend money on. And we have over the years sort of tweaked things, like the two on the left of the screen with the green lids are both our Christmas ones, and then the black and blue ones are our two sentimental ones for Scott and I. So we have sort of tweaked them and moved things around so that they are sort of coordinated by category. But if you're super into organizing, I totally get it. And yes, I love the idea of everything like the totes coordinated by color, but that is not me, not now. The thing I talk about a lot in part 2 of this is labels. So I'll go into like detail about that, but I do want to quickly say that up until probably 2 years ago, our labels for on these basement totes were just pieces of paper that I wrote with a Sharpie on, and I stuck it on there with like some box tape, I think, and it worked totally fine. We ended up, when I updated these labels, at this point, I didn't even think I had my own label maker. So that was, I used Scott's, he's an electrician, and he has like a label maker that he uses for like when he's labeling electrical stuff. I don't know, boxes, I guess. Anyway, so I used his, and we added like just standard little labels to them, and I haven't updated them. Maybe one day I'll make them cute and exciting, but I'm not worried about that. And also, you can use, with labels, you can use anything you have. Like there's 1,000 ways to make labels. And again, I talk about that next week, but I will say like just try to use what you have properly for that. It's like the easiest thing. If you don't need a label maker is what I'm saying. The other thing people talk about a lot, or kind of a big controversy on the internet, is clear bins versus like not clear bins. I am a big, I've talked about this before, but I'm big with visual clutter. Like I get overwhelmed when I can see everything. So I always, typically for myself, I like not clear bins. I like bins that are colored and you can't see in them. I'm also, at this point, I'm very in tune with what we own. I know everything we have. I know like what's in everything. However, I think there are circumstances where clear bins can be handy if you have a lot of like seasonal decor, as an example, and you want to be able to see what's in there each year before you open them up. Or if you're thinking, oh man, I haven't decorated, but I need to find my elf on the shelf, for example, and you want to be able to see it. I get it. Clear bins are handy in that way. I will say, for sure, they're typically more expensive. Like quite here in Canada anyway, in our area, they're quite a bit more expensive, especially if you're getting into larger bins. So just something to mention. It's very personal, and I think there are definitely benefits to clear bins. So do whatever works for you. Do what you like, but typically I just use what we have, is partly why we have these bins. As you can see here, I get to the point where I'm stuck. And this happens, I feel like, in all of my videos. You'll see a time where I'm like, oh man, I don't know what to do. And I call Scott in and I say, okay, what do you think about this? And just having this outside perspective helps. So you can see these bins on the right-hand side of the screen. I have them sticking out. So they're kind of stored, not flat against the wall, but sticking out, which I was somewhat okay with. But then we decided there is, to the right of the screen, like to the right of Scott, there's this underneath the stairs, this other little, crawl space off the crawl space. And it's not usable space. It's super, super small, but it is big enough to fit our Christmas totes. So it wouldn't be a good space to put something I'm accessing a lot, but our Christmas totes is something we only need to access once per year. So we decided to put them in there, and I'm super happy with it because it just gives us more floor space in this outside area, like this main area, because although this is storage, I do access a lot of this quite often. So I wanted to be able to have bins really easily accessible and be able to get in and out of here without being a huge pain, which was the whole point of moving it from the other space to this space. The other thing I talked about earlier was having shelving, and most of the storage that we have or that we work on in clients' homes, they do have some sort of shelving. We don't, except for this obviously little shelf, and I didn't think it was necessary for us because we have so few totes. I think I ended up only having these two on that I'm working with right now. They're the only ones that are actually on top of each other. And I kind of purposely did that because that bottom one is currently our toy rotation. And I don't want them to be able to access it. So I'm hoping they just kind of never notice it. And I'm going to change the label so it says something like obscure so they won't know what it is. But those are the only two that actually, like, I have to take one bin off to access the other. So I'm okay with that. However, I could have definitely got some shelving for in here. There's like two options for basement shelving we use. We use like that black resin. It's like a black plastic that we personally get from Canadian Tire normally, or like any Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. Or there is, like from Amazon, we'll get with the metal kind of legs, and then you have the flat wooden shelves and you kind of put it together. And then the beauty of that one is you can judge how high you want the shelves so they can fit bigger totes or bigger, bulkier items. I'll link both of those below just for your interest. Like, they're not affiliate links or anything. Mine never are, but I will show you that just in case you do need shelving. The best shelving typically is when clients have them made. Like if they are handy, or if you use someone handy in your family, we have typically the best luck with shelves that are like installed, because also it's an area like this where it's low, especially in a basement, or it's just a bit of a wonky space. It's very rare to find a house that has a perfect storage room. So another thing to mention is if you have a weird, annoying storage that's in a weird area, that is most common. So you are not alone. It is very uncommon to have like a perfect, beautiful Pinterest storage area in your home. Okay, I want to quickly show, that's a clip of the Christmas ones. Scott gives it the thumbs up. So again, not easiest to access, but it's perfect for something you only have to grab once a year. The other thing I quickly showed was Scott putting a nail in the wall there. That is for our wreaths. So I have 3 wreaths total. There's always one on the door and 2 that we need to store. And there was just a bunch of nails in the wall already, so I just had them hanging. Scott's like, let me just put a new nail in the spot that you want it, so it's flat against the wall. So he quickly did that. And another suggestion is just not overthinking things. So I think I say that a lot, but all it was one simple nail, and it took him about 30 seconds, and he put the nail in the wall and we could hang the wreath. So not everything has to be something new that you buy. Just using what you have, using the space that you have, and best utilizing it to work for you and your family. In terms of what we own and what we have in this storage room, these 3 blue ones that I'm grabbing right now are our kids' like grow into bins. So I've mentioned those in tons of videos before, but they're closed. We could get a lot of hand-me-downs, and so to make that work for us without their bedrooms becoming overwhelming, is we have these grow into bins. So if we're gifted items or hand-me-downs that we love and we want to use them, but they don't quite fit yet, I put them into these bins. And then we have the third one is our outerwear. So that's another thing that's really valuable, is snow pants and snow boots and that kind of thing, where we'll have friends offer them and they'll be 2 sizes up, but I'm thinking these are such a great fit. Like I know these will work for us in a couple years. So I have that bin I can use and put stuff into there. So I love those 3 bins. I use them a ton. So this is the final product, the final result. It may not seem exciting to others, but I am so excited about it. It works so well. There's tons of room to walk around. The other things, as I mentioned, that we have in there, we have Christmas, we have a kid like toy rotation, we have that little car seat we keep to use, or not that car seat, sorry, but that little booster seat we use when we cut Leo's hair. We have our gift wrap. These are tissue paper and gift bags in this one. To the right of that, those long gray things. If you know what those are, put that in the comments. I want to see if anyone knows actually what these long gray things are. We're about to use them, if that's a hint. We're about to use them for the winter. We also have like the backs of booster car seats for in the car that the kids aren't using at the moment, but we need to keep so that we can pass those along when we're done with them. We have our luggage, which actually we use as our rotation, our like seasonal clothing for Scott and I. So we keep that in our luggage in there. That's why they're not inside of each other. Otherwise, storing luggage within each other is very handy. So just showing you an overview, our basic labels, our basic totes. Did not buy a single thing to finish this project, and it feels so good. Like I said, I have a video coming up that's going to show you what we have in there and items that we have decluttered over the years that have felt so good, so we can streamline this area and make it more functional and less overwhelming and less stressful. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I have more videos like it every single week about organizing and decluttering and living with less. I also have, like I mentioned, part 2 of our video is next week, and that is what the heck did we do with all the toys that were in this toy room, which was much more than what you just saw. You can see this is a quick clip of what we're doing next week. We went to the store after we finished that, and we actually bought something new, which I feel like I never do in videos, so it was kind of exciting. I got some storage cubes, a little storage cabinet, and we tackled this upstairs. Figured out what to do with the toys. Please tune in next week for part 2 of this video, and have a great week, guys, and I will see you very soon. Bye.